Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, aka Caliban, and I can't believe it took 56 years for someone to come up with brown hole. Kudos, Lower Decks! Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to Discoverage.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here on the sixth episode and sixth week of Lower Decks Season 3. And what a ride it's been so far.
It has been a ride. Coincidentally, the sixth week of Rings of Power this week.
That's true.
Weird.
And
Weird how that works out.
Hold that thought, because I want to bring in our other guest who might have something to say about that. Also returning to the show tonight, my co-host on the Just Enough Trope podcast. She's also the host of the Sailor Noob podcast, and she's a frequent Enterprising Individuals and Discoverage guest. It's Mika Hana. Mika, welcome back to the show, to the series, to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
It's great to have you here as well, and good to have you here on the sixth week. I don't know why I keep saying that. We've been on a journey, and every journey has to make a pit stop, and sometimes it's at a recognizable station, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But forget all that. Hit the GIF that I don't have ready to go. It's the Lord of the... We're going on an adventure. Let's talk about the Rings of Power. And the show comes out on Fridays, right? It'll be out like in a couple hours.
Tonight
right?
at like midnight-ish. So it comes out sometime in the middle of the night.
I never know if I'm caught up or not, but I am. I am caught up. They are sailing east.
Yes.
Which is, they've started the show sailing west. Now they're sailing east, going the other way.
Classic road trip.
Do we have? Are we winnowing our list of Sauron candidates?
I feel like I don't know who Sauron is going to be, or if we've met him yet.
Yeah.
Lots of fans speculating it's Halbrand. I do not think that is the case. I could be horrendously surprised.
It would
at some point.
It would be a long and interesting bet, right? A king from the Southlands who is really good at forging and making things. Man, he's good at making things. I mean...
Well, that is true.
It would be weird to have invested so much in him as a character, but then again, these are the opening acts of this thing, right? Like, if he's going to flip, we've got plenty of time for him to flip and then be on the other side of this thing. So maybe the show is trying to lull you into expecting, one thing, and then, whoa, it's something totally different.
That could be the case.
He's kind of I don't want him to be, but he's kind of the only one that makes sense if there is a secret Sauron candidate here, Everybody else is like, we're getting down to like 25 to 1, 50 to 1, Gilgalad 1,000 to 1. You know what I mean? Like Sauron can look like anybody, I guess, if he wants to. But
Gilgalad's sus, though.
He does suck, but but him being evil would remove the strong choice they made of him sucking. Mm-hmm. So having like cool and available Seaman, and you can quote me on that. He seems like he was, that's who Sauron would be, right? I think he's right. I think it's like 2 to 1 for him. Unless you're thinking Nori. Is that her name?
No.
Well, I haven't trusted her since the beginning.
Yeah, you can't. No, you can't trust a Brandyfoot. Forget it.
No.
Do you guys?
Guess.
Go ahead.
I guess I don't know. I feel like maybe we just haven't met him yet. Like I don't really feel like they are like gonna play the long game as far as like, whoops, and now it's Halbrand, even though he's sus too.
Yeah.
But I don't know, if it's not our bestie father, our bestie Adar, then I don't know. Although I feel like I remember from my, some of us back in the good old days, maybe when I was a teenager, I read lots of Lord of the Rings fan fiction. And we don't have to get into it, but what I will say is that I feel like one time I was like, were there ever any evil elves? And I feel like there was one, but what I'm not doing while I'm watching this show is like researching.
Yeah.
because I want to have fun watching the show. Although I will say that the
Yeah.
last episode kind of, I thought, a little bit an interesting choice to finally move away from canon with the Mithril stuff. It doesn't really make any sense to me,
Yeah.
but hmm?
Well, I mean, did Mithril need an origin? I don't know.
No, because it's a rock, you
Yeah,
know,
it's
right?
just a rock. Yeah.
It's a rock. So the rock comes from it's in the earth, like it's in the ground. What's the
Yeah.
origin story of dirt?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Like what's
And gold was,
While
yeah.
we're at it,
Yeah,
where
one of
did
the-
dirt come
exactly
from?
what's the origin story of Elrond's like feather Peter Pan shirt? You know what I mean? That's what I'm really more concerned about.
Well, his mother Elwing turned into a swan, right? At one point.
Oh,
So
well,
that's,
well.
yeah. I don't know. I don't think that we know that there are apparently things that they can't access because of rights issues, but
The Silmarillion.
Marvel had a Scarlet Witch and they weren't supposed to because that belonged to somebody else, I guess, right?
Yes.
So that was okay. So who knows? But like it could be, you were talking about the evil elf, and like it could be Eol, the dark elf, who wasn't evil so much as like, he was like badass, pulls up on his elf motorcycle, like Link, and he's like, yeah, whatever. And he falls off a cliff in like the first age. So we don't know what happens to that guy. So this could be them sort of, fanficking him back into the story at a later point.
Yeah.
Okay.
The real question is, who are the Nazgul, right? Could be that Halbrand is on the level, but he ends up becoming a Nazgul or the Witch King of Agmar. Like, so all of these
That's
characters,
kind of big brained.
yeah, all of these characters who don't show up in Lord of the Rings later on is like, hey, I'm an old elf. Like they all could have possible second roles as other people.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, it's fitting that we're talking all about continuity in a long-running series this week because we are talking about that chiefly for this specific episode tonight, the 6th episode of the 3rd season of Lower Decks. It's an episode called Hear All, Trust Nothing, and we're here to talk all about it. But first, as always, trust us. We are setting a course for the spoiler zone, listeners, so if you haven't seen this episode, spoilers are incoming. The official synopsis for Hear All, Trust Nothing is the Cerritos crew unexpectedly spends a day on Deep Space Nine. Short but sweet and accurate, I suppose. It was written by Grace Parra-Janney and directed by Phil Mark Sadraka. And the stardate for this episode is 58456.2. Some interesting facts about the episode. Of course, the title is a reference to the 190th rule of Ferengi acquisition, which is, of course, Hear All, Trust Nothing. That was first heard in the DS9 Season 5 episode Call to Arms. Couple big things in this episode. This is canon, of course. So this episode features the return to Deep Space Nine. It's the first visit to the station and the appearance of the station since the finale of DS9, What You Leave Behind, which aired 23 years ago in 1999.
Wow.
Yes. It's also the return of the Karema race, which appear in the 5th season episode, I believe, Starship Down. Friend of the show, David Mack, wrote that one. And it also features the return of legacy characters Kira, Quark, and Morn to the show after 23 years. Nana Visitor returns to the role of Kira Nerys. After 23 years, Armin Shimmerman voices Quark on screen after a 23-year pause. And the voice of Morn is provided by Mark Allen Shepard. Other than that, what did you guys think about this episode, Hear All, Trust Nothing? Mika.
I think it was cool that we got to go back to DS9 after 23 years. I mean, that's like probably my biggest takeaway, but and I think it was cool that of course, very happy that they got Nana Visitor and Armin Shimmerman to do their roles and stuff like that. Because it wouldn't have been quite as cool.
Well, are they going to get somebody else? Tara.
I don't know.
Tara Strong as Kira Nerys. Yeah,
Get
Quark, what are you doing?
A voice impersonator or something like that.
Yeah. Which they
But
won't have to do with James Earl Jones anymore. He retired. Do you guys hear this? He retired from Darth
I did
Vader.
hear that.
But he's been digitized as an AI. So apparently they can just do Darth Vader with his voice. Which honestly, I mean, great way to honor, an amazing actor, performer, and
Yeah.
played this indelible character. But like, there's like, that's a job. Like being a James
It
Earl
is a
Jones
job.
impersonator is a job that Lucasfilm has had in video games and cartoons for years. And now it's just like, you don't know the power of the dark side. It's like, come on. Bunch of guys on the bread line now.
No, you're right. That is taking work away from actors who are working. So that kind of sucks.
Sorry, back to Star Trek.
Yeah, no, I thought it was fun. I liked that Boimler was like really good at Davo. I thought that was unexpected. I don't know where he got that skill from. Unless they're trying to say that Davo is just a game of chance, which sure, but like we've seen plenty of other characters like not do well at Davo before.
It's like Roger Rabbit. He's good only when it's funny, and then he can be very good. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think those were some highlights for me.
Ella, what'd you think?
I really liked it. I felt very moved when the Deep Space Nine score hit when we see the station.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think I was gonna feel like emotional, and then when they started playing music, I was like, oh God, here it comes.
Yeah.
But I really liked it, and I think that it speaks to sort of the success of Lower Decks, that we have both a Deep Space Nine crossover and a Strange New Worlds crossover in like the same season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was super exciting. I think it maybe is my second favorite. I don't remember. I think it was like an episode ago that was my number one favorite this season so far.
Last week was your second favorite. So does that
so
move
that's
to third
bumped
favorite?
Down to 3.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
For sure. For sure.
I don't. This every week they conspire to continue to confound me in terms of trying to understand my relationship with this show, and something that I've been tracking, whether it makes any sense or not, is the show's continued evolution into a weekly Star Trek show of the likes of that we've seen, in the Berman years, which tonight was like they had like a D story tonight. Like there was like boom, boom, boom. He just kept cutting back and forth. It was like classic 90s Star Trek, which is fine. But also like it being a nostalgia factory, like a Star Trek jukebox, and like going to DS9 and going, hey, it's Quarks. It's the Klingon Gak vendor or whatever, is like the apotheosis of that idea. So it now has somehow done both of those things at once. It's like it's 100% reference humor, 100% solid Star Trek storytelling structure. And it gets you a girl that can do both, I guess, is what it's supposed to be. Like, I think it's a success as far as that goes. I don't think it's for me. I don't want to see that at all. But it did it, and it did it really well. And I was more excited about the idea of a Strange New Worlds crossover because it meant synergy between two new shows, to just, I like the fact that they made a joke out of like, nah, just go ahead, fly back around again. Start the thing up.
Yes.
It's like, I was like, okay, are they going to be a little self-referential? Not really. It's just going to be like, hey, that thing. Kira's still, at this point, I guess it's only like 7 or 8 years after What We Leave Behind, but like, I hope Kira retires eventually, right? And just goes and like does something else, like opens a tchotchke shop on Bajor, or just enjoys the fruits of all the work that she did. Don't tell me that she's going to administer this station for the rest of her life.
Opens a tchotchke shop.
But that's the benefit of having like them be the animated versions, because if they were live action, this would have to be 25 years after DS9, just because of the way the actors are. But capturing them.
I don't know.
This...
Nana Visitor.
Well, yeah, I mean, she looks great.
She looks great.
What are we
She's
going to do?
Crisp.
Yeah.
But like capturing
10
them,
to 80p.
capturing them in a time period that is like after, but still within like a normal or a believable range of their old characters. I mean, I thought that really worked. I have more thoughts. The fact that you can make the joke, and they started this in Picard, I guess, but like you can make the joke that Quark has like franchised all of his locations in other places, but then we go and back to the source and like, so what's the joke? What's the evolution now? Like who is Quark as a guy if he's done this? And the answer is, oh, he's just Quark. Like he's just kind of doing the same thing.
He hasn't changed. Yeah.
So it's like, all right, but I guess
he's taking selfies with people. He's giving out autographs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's like behind the bar. And that's fine. Again, like if it's a nostalgia piece, then it's like we don't want to change it too much. But like I wanted to see it be different. I wanted to see like DS9, but maybe it's a little different. And of course, nobody even said Cisco. I don't think the word even came out the entire time. So, so I don't know. I just like it felt like like a pretty thing, a pretty ornament that is totally empty inside. I said it. I said it was pretty.
Did.
I said you were pretty. What do you guys think about the? Let's talk about the different storylines. And I don't know which one was the A, B, C, whatever. But let's talk about Mariner going to the salon with the other women on board, and the idea. Like, what do you guys think of that storyline? What are they trying to do with that? Other than sort of like to push forward the Jennifer Mariner connection.
I think they're just trying to push that like Jennifer wants her to be herself. I think is what they're trying to push.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I wasn't necessarily expecting that, and I certainly wasn't expecting her to like phaser all her friends.
Yeah, well,
I was like,
it's a cartoon.
What? I know.
Yeah, it's okay to phaser everybody. It's fine.
As long as you phaser yourself at the end so they don't know.
Right, yeah.
I know.
It still doesn't, like, I remember you phasering
you
me.
all come to consciousness.
It's not a roofie beam.
Yeah, right, like that's true.
Oh, we were all chloroformed. What happened? Wait a minute. What are you guys doing here? No, more chloroform. Yeah, but whatever. That's after phasering everybody in a spree. Like you really got to turn the stun phaser on yourself. That's just how you end that.
It's just the right thing to do.
It's just manners. It's proper manners at the salon.
I like the idea of the salon. I guess I would have liked to. It just seemed like it was. I would like to have seen them do more Starfleet or like what do Starfleet people do in their downtime? That isn't like rehearsing plays. Or playing the trombone or whatever. But I guess they're making candles. It's like, okay.
Only the fine arts.
Right. Yeah, right. They're making intentions. Their candles are about their intentions.
Yes.
And their personal battlefields. It was like, okay.
I feel like a Starfleet officer, I feel like I can see them watching MASH.
Oh, okay.
The television show MASH?
And just being like, whew, back in the day.
Whoa, suicide is painless.
Brutal in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or did you mean the film MASH? Because
I meant the TV show. Fun fact, I have not seen the film.
Oh, okay. It's different than the TV show.
I have seen the TV show.
It's a lot different than the TV show.
I've heard.
Because TV doesn't they have to explain to Data what TV is because TV died out in the 21st century. Weird position for Star
over
Trek
my
to
dead
take.
body.
Yeah. But I could see them. I could see them watching the films of Robert Altman, though. So anyway,
Tom Paris
just a classic 2001
TV.
But it's weird though. His wife makes him a TV, and he's like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "Okay, all right."
You're right. It is weird. She's like, "Why are you getting excited?"
He's watching gangster movies and people blowing each other away, and she's like, "I married this guy. I don't know." So yeah, hopefully the Jennifer situation will continue to improve.
The Jennifer situation.
I want to talk about the Orion situation, and
sure. You're not going to go for a Jennifer's body joke in there somewhere.
Well, I'm afraid to.
Yeah, it's tough to work in.
Yeah.
Good thing I did it.
I hope
without even making a joke.
Finds Jennifer's body. I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen it. I don't know what happened to it. But I want to talk about the Orion situation and what you guys think about Orion's. How the show deals with Orions when it brings up Orions. Do you know what I mean? What are we trying to? Why are we keep doing this?
I'm not entirely sure what we're trying to do.
What is it?
And
I have my notes. What are we doing with this?
Well, and I know, like, when we have aliens on the show, it's a way of us talking about race and race relations
In the
and different
past.
things in the
But
past.
now we
Yes.
have people of color in main roles and we
Right.
have LGBTQ people, and so we don't need
Right.
metaphors anymore.
Right, but it seemed like they were still kind of trying to make it a metaphor,
Yeah,
and I
yeah, it does. And
and I
I'm a little
don't
worried about
really
what the metaphor is.
I don't really get that, and I also don't like the implication that this guy is like saying that they're all like the same. And I know we find out later it's because he doesn't know any better.
He's the Orion Wharf. Yeah,
He's
Yeah,
he was
adopted.
raised on Earth. Yeah,
yeah,
which is an interesting idea, but I suppose it's to make like the Klingons are a monoculture, right? They all love war. Obviously, this isn't true, but we view them as this, and that's the perspective that Worf has to sort of deal with. But when they're Russia or the Chinese in the Cold War or whatever they're supposed to be, they're the other. It That's kind of like how old Star Trek sort of dealt with that. Now it's like specifically a race, and they're like, how we're all like this, and Orions do this, and regular people do this. It's like, what are they? Where are they going? What are they trying to do? Why are they doing this? This seems like the last holdout weird race metaphor that the franchise today is even bothering to try to do. And it's like about Orions and how they love crimes. Like, I don't understand why this is their hook for this. I don't understand why they continue doing it. I don't know. I was asking you guys. It has absolutely no returns for me. So I'm just wondering, like, why you guys, what your response was to it, and why you think they keep doing it.
I guess I thought it was like when they do this, I feel like it's like they're trying to do some character development for Tendi. I do feel like we've seen it before with her, like when we learned about her past.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
it was fun. It was fun to then for her to finally like be like, shut the hell up, and also give me that because it's time to bust it down.
Yeah.
Like it was really funny when she just yelled at that guy screaming. Like it was a good bit. I don't know what it is beyond a good bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good criticism to be like, we don't need to do the aliens or a metaphor for like racism anymore because there's like, yeah, like that's a really good criticism, I think.
It's specifically about their antisocial behavior, though, that I think is weird. Like when you look at like Quark, right? Quark is he's a Ferengi from Ferengnar, and so he aspires to be a great Ferengi. The Ferengi have a kind of problematic relationship with like money and commerce, and like sexual politics, and that doesn't represent anything specifically. You can't even get Trek fans to admit, half of them won't even admit that it's a critique of capitalism, right? But he is the character who.
What do you mean?
Is removed from that. So 1, 2, the half of you, right? 50%. You're on board, right? You're on board, right, Union girl?
Yes.
But anyway, we take him out. We take the tiger out of the jungle, and we see how much jungle is left in the tiger. Do you know what I mean? And it's an interesting character, and even though they're kind of assassinate any growth that he's had in this episode, but whatever, it's a cartoon. It's all canon though. That's a critique of like an economic system, right? But like, what is this supposed to be? Like, and like, why is Tendi's character growth all tied to her race and the perception of her race, a race which they completely refuse to develop beyond? They love doing crimes, man. And so we go to the future in Discovery, and the Orions are still doing crimes. And the one thing that they have that's different is that they try to develop this sort of ersatz idea of like their own democracy, which, the Wicked Witch is at the head of it. And it turns out to be completely just a sham and a snow job that she doesn't believe in. But like justice for the Orions, when are we going to learn anything about their culture other than they love doing crimes? And the fact that Tendi, which it's not all, I mean, we know her character from other episodes, but this like one thing that they just keep trying to hit, and it's like, I just don't think it's that interesting, and it makes me feel kind of skeevy.
I think they do it so it gives Tendi an excuse to do some
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's not really, she's fought against that for so long.
Yeah.
And that's not generally speaking, really who she is. Like it was kind of how she was raised, I
Yeah.
guess. But she's like, yeah, but I want to do science and medical stuff and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
really nerdy things.
That's
So
interesting.
I think that that's why they keep doing it. But I think you bring up some really good points, and I do wish they would kind of move away from that. And it's a little frustrating too because she's said and fought even herself that like not all Orions are like that, and we're not really like that anymore. And then for it to just kind of be like, oh, but we are. It's kind of like, wait, well, which is it?
It's also it's interesting that thing that you pointed out of her struggling against either her reputation or the now absent societal pressures on her to be a certain way, whether or not it's a cool thing that the Orions are all about crimes, like her trying to resist that. That is interesting. What I think is weird is that so apparently she's a super badass. Mariner's a super badass. Rutherford is a badass with connections to Section 31 or whatever the shadowy figures are. And it's are these guys lower decks or not? It was interesting when they were scrappy and maybe not capable and they're learning lessons. But if they're all just slumming badasses, that makes them less attractive to me.
That's a valid point too. That means
Well, I
Boimler is the only true lower decker.
Well, he knows he reads all the logs and technically he's perfect. He just doesn't have any seasoning, I guess. He did okay on the Titan, he was doing well there.
He was. He just missed his friend.
Which Boimler was that though?
Great question.
Remember when he got cloned, transporter cloned?
Yeah.
Who's got the trombone now? Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, I think that it's, even though I don't know, maybe it's just the format, the half an hour format and the sort of comedic genre of the show. These are all interesting questions and conflicts to me. I like the scenarios that they've introduced. I just don't, I'm going to be doing them in my mind. I don't think they're going to be doing them on the screen. So that's my.
I think also we've talked about, especially
criticism.
this season, about are they going to pull, are they going to, is it a switch on us? Are they going to suddenly start doing serious episodes and asking very serious questions?
Yeah.
And it not be a comedy anymore? And I think the answer is no. I think it's going to stay a comedy. Because what's a good, I said, what's a good bit for Tendi to finally be like, all right, give me that thing. Let's go. I'm ripping the tooth out. I'm doing this.
Right.
And so I don't know how much, which I kind of want from them. We have Star Trek has been, Star Trek is Star Trek is Star Trek is Star Trek, and every other series is doing has the metaphors for race, but it's about aliens, and has the Deep Space Nine has the conflict with the Cardassians, the Dominion, all that stuff. And I want Lower Decks to stay. I think it has its own lane, and I want them to stay in it. So I appreciate that about them, I guess.
Here's my question. Did Andy Robinson say no?
I wonder if they asked him. I was actually
How
wondering
are you gonna
that.
go back to DS9? And I know, all right, so I don't know where they are 7-8 years later. Garrick is off rebuilding Cardassia, but he can.
I feel Garrick is the one with the tchotchke shop.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
He's the one. He's got a store on a pier. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
A very touristy
away from
type
prying
of
eyes.
place. Yeah.
Or I would have liked get Max Grodenchik back in there or something.
Yeah.
It's a cartoon. You can do whatever you want.
I agree with you. I'm glad that we had Kira and Quark, but I was kind of hoping, since it was Deep Space Nine, that we would get more characters.
Yeah, I wanted the full Futurama Where No Fan episode. Yeah.
Right. It would have been great. I mean, they probably wouldn't have gotten Avery Brooks, but
I think we have our answer about how. So I guess we still don't. Tell me if you guys know how the crossover is going to work. But if Strange New World characters are on Lower Decks, we've seen how it's going to happen now. There will just be, fair approximations of our characters with hair jokes. We'll make high hair jokes.
Oh, there'll definitely be a high
Because we've had Tom
joke.
Paris, we've had Kira, we've had Quark at this point. So, Riker and Troy, obviously. So it'll just be, it'll be Captain Hare and somebody else. What other character do you think it'll be from Strange New Worlds?
Well, it's going to be Spock.
Just
Is
Kirk
it?
and Spock?
Well, I don't know. Spock's definitely going to be on. Well, they've said that Spock is going to be on, but
Got it.
I don't know. I was assuming Pike, Spock,
Yeah.
Got
Pike
it.
and Spock, yeah.
bare minimum.
I was just thinking, like, get somebody visually interesting. They're all interesting.
Are you saying Antimon's hair is not visually interesting?
Say it.
Are you saying
Mr. Hare? Come on.
Are you saying exactly? Are you saying our man Ethan Peck is not visually interesting?
I know. I was not implying that in any way. But said it.
Who said
Said it before. Said it before the finale, and get Hemmer in there or something like that. Bring Bruce back for a voice
Miss
role.
Hammer.
I'm bummed the Hammer's gone.
No,
now.
sorry, I had to bring us all down. Sorry.
No.
No, we're on DS9. We're having fun. Come on. I did like it really like this. People like Shax, and I like Shax, but like Shax is a character. He's like, he's the mascot of Lower Decks in a way. Like, I think he's the character who's had no real storylines and minimal screen time, but he's instantly visually recognizable. He's been involved in some of the strongest, visual gags in the show. There's the ongoing mystery of how he came back to life, and then you just toss in, and he and Kira are besties, and it's like, oh well, come on, man, this guy
rocks.
Shax is a Mary Sue. That's what I'm trying to say. But
Mary Shack Sue.
yeah,
Is that-
Shax Sue. But anyway, I thought that was kind of cute that he and Kira knew each other.
Yeah, that was nice.
And they were getting mad at each other for like saving each other.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
then I had to save you.
Oh, you
because
old son
saved...
of a! No, you did it. Yeah. Anything else that you guys wanted to talk about or cover about the episode?
I thought it was really funny that Rutherford had to go up on the second level, and then we just saw his legs dangling.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
He's like, I need to go dangle my legs up the second level.
Right.
I know. It's
Hey,
great.
look at me. Yeah.
That's great.
I thought
Dude, me as a kid watching Jake and Nog up there, that's all I wanted. I was like,
Yeah.
I want to sit up there and talk about stuff. Dangle my
Because it
legs.
looks cool.
Yeah, it looks like fun.
have the clutch rescue from the ship that's about to go through the wormhole. That's a classic DS9, stopping them from getting away.
I thought we were about to see the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Just about.
I thought that both Kira or Nana Visitor and Armin Shimmerman's performances are great, and you could tell Armin had the teeth in, right? He's always said
Yeah,
that
You think so?
he's always said that he's not Quark unless he's got the the teeth in, and so you could hear it. You could hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all in all, a strong episode. I think this is going to be another one that people talk about and look back on, as a high point. At this point, I'm kind of wondering, how do you top this going towards the end of the season? What do you guys think is coming up? Other than
besides the
crossover.
Strange New Worlds crossover,
Yeah.
do we have any like long-standing story threads that we really
I
work
wouldn't
through?
until last week. Until recently,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said this, but probably Mariner and Jennifer looks like a strong
Oh,
one.
right.
For an
true.
on-board thing. Yeah.
I was gonna say Rutherford's thing.
Oh yeah, Rutherford's thing. from last
Rutherford's
week.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, we gotta find out who's the suit.
Technically,
that's true.
Mariner's supposed to be on her like last demerit at this point, so I don't know
That's true too.
if they'll pick that back up. It's hard to tell. In the past, the show has felt totally comfortable just dropping something in, but it's usually something that we've kind of seen or heard about at least once before. So I don't know.
Do you think they'll threaten to take Mariner off the ship at the end of the season or something like that, and then that puts her and Jennifer in jeopardy?
Oh,
I feel like we need to
maybe.
see more
Yeah.
of Jennifer before anyone cares about. Like, I
I
don't care a
mean,
lot.
I care about
yeah,
Jennifer.
I care, but like, yeah. I mean, it'd be nice if maybe we'll get a longer runner with her and just her and Jennifer and not like her and Jennifer and all of Jennifer's friends. So we'll get like more information about their relationship. That'd be nice.
It's tough when there's only 10 episodes and they're only a half an hour, but do you guys think that we will see new, more regular characters as the show goes on? Presumably the show is going to, go for a while. Beyond just Dr. Bird showing up every once in a while, or something like that.
Well,
Will they add a 7 of 9, or a Worf to this thing?
that would be great. Wasn't it like last season they were showing the lower deckers from like different ships?
Mm-hmm.
And like they were like, I thought they were going to be like a bigger part of this season.
Mm-hmm.
That would be so fun.
They said
like
at the time
I thought we'd see him again.
I can't remember the character's name, but they said at the time that the Vulcan character, I think that we were going to see her again.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I
that
wanna
would
see
be
her.
cool. Do you think we'll see the female Indiana Jones again?
Yeah,
Gotta,
maybe.
right? If not this season, next season.
Yeah. I think she could show up again.
If Q comes back, they could do.
Q should totally come back.
They've done Robin Hood already, so it's something else.
Yeah.
Do a King Arthur or something like that.
Have Q come back and have him be a bigger part of the episode. Because
Yeah.
they made such a big
100%.
deal about him coming back, and then he was barely in it. I was kind of bummed.
So if you can exist throughout, this is a Doctor Who problem, but if you can exist throughout all time and space and have for a long, long time, Q may have died, spoiler for Picard season 2, but I mean, he could still show up at any time, however he wants to look, right? Like he can be in the future. I don't know what his personal timeline is, just a complete squiggle, right?
Yeah, and this is supposed to take place only a couple years after TNG and Deep Space Nine and Voyager,
Sure,
right?
But did he die in
At the end of Picard,
alternate 2024, or did he die, in
Great question.
2501 or whatever it was when they came back to our timeline or whenever. So yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like the guy's, if he's godlike, if Voyager, Quinn took Voyager to the beginning of to the Big Bang, so you can always have John Delancey show up. I don't think that's a problem. Nobody's going to argue that point too closely.
They better not.
Well, I think that is going to do it for this week's episode. Thanks for joining us, listeners, and hearing us talk about this episode of Lower Decks. If you like what you hear, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPOD for updates and to get notified when new episodes of both this show, Discoverage, and our main show, Enterprising Individuals, are released. And you can tweet to us on the show by using the hashtag Discoverage or email us at EISTPOD@gmail.com. And while you're on the internet, why not head to your listening platform of choice and subscribe to our show feed. Give us a rating and a review because it really does help us out. We'll be back on October 6th for the 7th episode of the 3rd season of Lower Decks. It's an episode titled A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. So I don't know what that means. Are the binars involved? Who knows? But we will be here next Thursday to cover it. We'll be going live once again around 8 p.m. Central. So join us then. And you can follow us on Twitter at Facebook. No, you can follow us on Twitter or Facebook at EISTPOD to get notified when we're live and broadcasting. In the meantime, check out our main show, Enterprising Individuals, which you can find at enterprisingindividuals.com or on your listening platform of choice. Every Wednesday on the show, I and a guest discuss in excruciating detail a selected film from the Star Trek series. We are up to Nemesis should be coming out next week. So check that out. Our most recent episode just dropped, and on it I'm joined by Mikan Hana. Actually, you're on this side. This is not a mirror. This is a camera. And
Hello.
we talk about the news from the world of Trek. Speaking of movies, some bad news about the Star Trek movie world, but listen to the show to hear us complain about that. You can find that episode at enterprisingindividuals.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Ella, thanks as always for joining me on the show, and remind people where they can find you online.
I want to shout out Trek Unlimited on Twitter. I work for Star Trek Unlimited. It is the best Star Trek licensed Star Trek merchandise company outside of CBS, I guess. If you want to go to the official merch store. I don't know. I'm not going to argue that point. Everyone follow Star Trek Unlimited on all your social media.
And Mika, thanks for joining us. As always, remind people where they can find you online.
Yeah, you can find me at justenoughtrope.com, and you cannot find me at Mikan Hana on Twitter right now because my account has been suspiciously suspended by Twitter. I don't know why. I think maybe I was hacked. That's all I know. Look at you.
So you didn't say those.
I don't even tweet that much.
You didn't say those things about Elon Musk then.
No.
Okay. All right. Tell it to the shadowy Twitter judge that makes a decision about whether you get your account back or not.
I know.
Well, hopefully
I'll get it back.
Hopefully
sometime
you'll
soon.
be back up soon. What's coming up on Just Enough Trope?
Yeah, we got a double feature this week, which two things we're talking about that are not related at all. We're talking about Blonde, the new Marilyn Monroe film from Netflix. And it's our Patreon show this week. So our patrons voted on 2 dragon-inspired films, and we are watching Reign of Fire.
Oh, yes, of course.
So,
the classic.
Yeah. So Marilyn Monroe and dragons.
Marilyn Monroe and a bald Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe and Matthew McConaughey. Perfect. Well, that's thanks for joining me again, and me and Ella, and that is it for us for this show, and we are signing off. This is Aaron for Mika and Ella saying live long and prosper.